Today I'm going to make a corner clamp so that you can get those perfect 90-degree corners every time.
Click on Zombie Apocalypse.
Okay, so what is the plan? How is this going to work? So let me quickly take you through it. Basically, for the baseline or the basis of this project, I'm going to take two pieces of square tubing like so. I'm going to put a spacer in between like this, just to join them together securely. I'm then going to take two pieces of angle iron, cut to length, mount one on this side, one on this side. Obviously this would be at a 90-degree angle. I'm then going to put a little piece of square tubing over there as well, weld that in place in order for a stabilization or stabilizing arm. I'm then going to take an old brake shoe or brake caliper, whichever it is. Let's quickly zoom in here a bit so you can get a bit of a better view of the whole thing. Quickly zoom a bit so you can get the bigger picture. We move this whole thing back a bit, like so. There we go. So I'm going to take an old brake shoe. It doesn't have to be fairly new like this one. It can be a completely worn one. That'll also be fine. On top of this brake shoe, I'm going to weld another piece of square tubing like this, and this will then be going on top of this whole structure like this. And then on the little tail piece that I've welded in place there, I'm going to take a M8, it's a nut basically, but it's a tube nut, it's a bit longer. I'm going to weld that in place over there. And then obviously take a piece of M8 threaded rod. It's going to screw right through that nut that I've welded onto there, and I'm going to drill a hole right through this piece of square tubing that I'm welded to the brake shoe, which is going to go right through it. I'm going to lock both ends with two nuts. So the main idea is that this will then be able to screw back and forth, and then pressing whatever items at a 90-degree angle so that you can join them in this open corner over here. So that's the basic idea. So let me get busy welding all this together. Okay, well, here's done. So basically what I've done is I've just welded the whole setup together like I explained before. Now in order to adjust this brake shoe part, I simply welded a nut, that tube nut that I showed you, to the square bar at the bottom, to the square tubing. I put another one on this end of the threaded rod. I drilled a hole right through it, and I simply put a M6 bolter nut onto the end of it. At the end of the nut, I just tack welded it in place, the same at the end of this one, just so that it remains in place. And then on either side of the square tubing that's attached to the brake shoe, I just put two normal regular M8 nuts, and I just lock them against each other on both sides so that this is able to turn freely, and this can then move back and forth. Now I double checked, I tack welded only the angle irons on the top here, but at the bottom they are solidly welded, as well as the square tubing tack welded on top and a permanent solid weld on the sides, just so that there's a smooth surface on top and it can move freely. So let's check how this angle came out. Put a 90-degree in there, and that is perfect, absolutely perfect 90-degree. So let's see how well this works. Okay, so here I screwed or I clamped two pieces of metal or square tubing and rectangular tubing in it. This is easy to turn and it's easy to clamp. They are both held together very securely. If you see, they're not going anywhere. If you lift up this end, you'll see that it's now got a perfect angle there. You can weld it on the inside, you can weld it on the outside. This will work just as well if you put two pieces of wood in there. You can screw them together, whatever it might be. Two pieces of round pipe, it'll work just as well. Now the corner is left open here so that if it was a piece of wood, for instance, you would be able to put screws in from either side. I might consider cutting out the slight bit bigger part so that if there, for instance, let me make an example, if you wanted to have one of the items pass through and make a T-joint, that a bigger one would be able to pass through. But for the moment, this is more than sufficient for what I'm going to use it for. Same with this one. This one can move that way if it's a T-junction in the other direction. But if you just screw this one nice and tight, this is solid. It won't go anywhere. Absolutely solid. So I'm very, very pleased with this one. If you like this idea and you like the video, please feel free to like the video. Give me a thumbs up. I'd highly appreciate that. Feel welcome to share with anybody you know, and also consider subscribing, and then you can see more of these DIY projects that I'm doing, as well as using all pieces of scrap metal and scrap wood and offcuts and so on to make useful items. So until next time, thank you very much, guys. Hello, Johnny.